action. And we got action. The question is, are the Indians, the Negroes, Niggas, Nagas, black people, right? Because as far as I've been looking back, my people been here. North Carolina, Georgia, Arkansas, Washington, California, all over. So let's start again with the etymology of words. American first. With that. All right. We bring it up in the Etymon Dictionary, definitionary. American as a noun, American as an adjective. American as a noun is from 1570s. The 1570s, y'all, originally meant, quote, let me add a little bit of zoom to this shit so y'all can see what I'm looking at. All right, that better. See that better. Originally, quote, one of the Aboriginal peoples discovered in the Western Hemisphere by Europeans. That's from the modern Latin Americanist, from America. All right. It said the original sense is now Native Americans. See, the original sense is now Native Americans. The sense of, quote, resident of North America, of European, originally British descent, end quote. That's from 1765. That's almost 200 years later from the original etymology. All right. That's as a noun. Give me, I gotta get something to drink here momentarily. Grab me a cup of water. I don't know what I did with my water bottle, but American as an adjective from the 1590s, 20 years after the noun, the adjective meant, quote, pertaining to the Western Hemisphere and its Aboriginal inhabitants. All right. So, seeing that, let's look up the word Aboriginal. Aboriginal adjective from 1660, quote, first, earliest, existing from the beginning. Especially in reference to inhabitants of lands, what? Colonized by Europeans. From aborigines. See, aborigine plus the suffix al. 1, the first census, right? The specific Australian census is attested from 1820. So again, almost 200 years later, they associate Aboriginal with the Australians. With the capital A. The noun meaning, quote, an original inhabitant and autochthon is attested from 1760. All right. Original inhabitant and autochthon. All right. So far, it's saying that Americans was the earliest existing from the beginning Indians that they came across. Or am I tripping? What is Aborigine? Let's just look. Aborigine is a noun. Person, animal, or plant that has been in a country or region from earliest times. 1858. Mistaken singular of Aborigines from 1540s. Aboriginal is considered the correct singular in English. From Latin, Aborigines, the first inhabitants. The first inhabitants, especially of the Latium, hence, quote, the first ancestors of the Romans. This is possibly a tribal name, or from or made to conform to the Latin phrase ab origine, which means literally from the beginning. Ab from origin, origine, the beginning. Oh, well, yeah, that's what I was going to say right there as it's written, right? This is from ab, quote, off, away from, see ab, plus the ablative of origo, quote, a rise, commencement, beginning, source, descent, lineage, birth. From the stem of oriri, 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 arise, rise, be born, be descendant, receive life. So, Aborigine. Aborigine would describe, myself and my ancestors here in America. Right? So thus far, we have determined that the American, right, is one of the Aboriginal peoples discovered in the Western Hemisphere by Europeans. Just one. Which means there were more. Right? They now call the Americans Native Americans. But native is not the same as Aboriginal. See, native, let's look at it, the adjective from the late 14th century, which is the 1300s. Native, quote, natural, inborn, hereditary, connected with something in a natural way. That's native. From Old French native, quote, native, born in, raw, unspoiled. Those are also synonymous with native. And directly from Latin, nativus, which is, quote, innate, produced by birth, end quote. From natus, past participle of nasi, Old Latin nasi, where the G is silent. It's not ganasi, it's nasi. Quote, be born, end quote. Related to gignere, which is, quote, beget, beget, coming from the Proto-Indo-European root, guess what? Gene or guinea. And guinea means give birth, beget. So when you're talking about native, you see what you're talking about. Native is different from aboriginal. Although we lay claim to both aboriginal and native. Our ancestors would have been the aboriginals. We would be the natives. All right. Is it tracking right? With derivatives referring to procreation and familial and tribal groups. See? Nativity. You know what I mean? Who your family? Who your people? Natural, inborn, hereditary, connected. Who you connected with in some natural way. See? Native to the land and native to the people. Naturally. It was born in us. It's hereditary. It's connected. So yeah, we are Native Americans too. But then when you look down here under the next definition, which is Native American, look what it says. Native American, in reference to the Aboriginal peoples. There's that word again, Aboriginal peoples of the Americas. That's attested by circa 1900 as the name of a journal, quote, devoted to Indian education. Native American was the name of a journal devoted to Indian education. Then it gives the example sentence. In the early 1970s, activist Indians began calling themselves Native Americans from the peyote using Native American Church, incorporated in 1918 in Oklahoma and subsequently in other states. The newer term, aside from disassociating its users from the reservation life of the past, was a form of one-upmanship, since it reminded whites just who was on the premises first. And that's how it's used in a sentence. Native Americans. From the peyote. The peyote, you know about that peyote. Still would like to take a peyote trip. But there you see, Aboriginal peoples of the Americas. All right. And when you looked up Aboriginal, We looked up American. Well, now, what is an Indian? Let's look the etymology of Indian. All right. Indian is an adjective and a noun. Quote, inhabitant of India or South Asia, pertaining to India, end quote. That's from circa 1300 as a noun and an adjective. From late Latin, Indianus, from India. See India, and we are going to see India, but after I read this, it applied to the Aboriginal native inhabitants, what, of the Americas, from at least 1553 as a noun. So, what is an Indian? An Aboriginal native inhabitant of the Americas. As a noun, 1610s as an adjective, right? Reflecting Spanish and Portuguese use. Because it was the Spanish and the Portuguese who was on a mission of discovery under the doctrine of the discovery, right? So what the Pope came out and talked about or wanted to apologize for. Too late for the apologies, man. Too late for the apologies, right? So, as it says, reflecting Spanish and Portuguese use on the mistaken notion that America was what? The eastern end of Asia. They thought America was the other part of Asia. That's why it was called by them on some of the old maps, what? India Superior. They also used Indian in the 18th and 19th centuries for inhabitants of the Philippines and indigenous peoples of Australia and New Zealand. That came much later. Note that. That's like 300 years later when it's associated with these other people. And then it goes down here and talks about the red Indian. See, and that's the thing I was talking about. When you put a qualifier in front of a word, like Indian by itself is an Aboriginal native inhabitant of the Americas, right? So then why do you have to put red in front of Indian? Because when you put something in front of it, now you make it something different other than the original. So the red Indians are exactly that, not the Aboriginal, something that came afterwards. But let's read what the definition says. It says red Indian, to distinguish the Native Americans from inhabitants of India, right? So to distinguish us from inhabitants of India who they were familiar with, because remember, they were over in Europe and they had already had the British East India Company. They already had a foothold in India. And they saw those dark-skinned, straight-haired people in India, right? And you get over here and you see these dark-skinned people. Some got straight hair, but some of them got a different type texture hair. It's woolly, right? Those woolly haired ones are the Aboriginal indigenous Americans, right? The ones who, braided their hair like corn rows of corn, shit like that, just how you mark yourself, or put art on yourself that's reflective of the environment that you in and the things that you do. Right? So there we have it. The three or the words that make up uh what we are. The question was what? Are the Indians, the Negroes, blacks, niggas, Nagas, right? Well, let's keep on going and find out. All right. Let's look up the etymology of black. Since we like calling ourselves black people, black adjective from Old English, blick, quote, absolutely dark, absorbing all light of the color of soot or coal. That's black. I wish I had a piece of coal, but I don't. But what I do have that's black is this microphone in front of me. And I can put my hand next to it and you can see, obviously, it's not the color of soot or coal or the blackness of this microphone that I'm using. But it is from the Proto-Germanic blackes, which means burned. Source also of Old Norse blacker, which means dark. In Old High German, bleh. You know what I mean? Like where the H becomes a K. They be like, you just bleh, black. Swedish, blick, and it means ink. In Dutch, bleken, to burn. And that's from the Proto-Indo-European. See those three words? Proto-Indo-European. Got to do the breakdown of that too, but not just yet. We're going to keep on with the blig, right? To burn, gleam, shine, flash. Those are all the meanings for blick. So it's also of Greek plaguing, right? You can see how the P and the H is sometimes interchangeable. And B. You know what I mean? You got to be up on a person to know. But the Greek is flagging. To burn, scorch. From Latin, flagrare, to blaze. Glow, burn. From root, bell, to shine, flash, burn. The usual Old English word for black was swart, from where they get the word swart. You know, swarthy. The same root produced Middle English Blake. Now, look what happens when it gets to Middle English and we start talking about Blake, because Blake is defined as pale. Now, is pale the same as soot or coal? Nah. And that's from the Old English black, which is defined as bright, shining, glittering. Again, there's that word pale. The connecting notions being perhaps fire, bright, and burned, dark, or perhaps absence of color. According to OED, in Middle English, it is often doubtful whether black, Blake means black, dark, or pale, colorless, wan, livid. And the surname Blake can mean either one of pale complexion or one of dark complexion. All right. Black was used of dark-skinned people in Old English. That's in Old English. Of coffee with nothing added, that's 1796. The meaning fierce, terrible, wicked is from the late 14th century, right? The figurative senses often come from the notion of what? Without light, moral or spiritual. Then you get to the Latin, Niger or Niger, had many of the same figurative senses: gloomy, unlucky, bad, wicked, malicious. Then you get to the metaphoric use of the Greek word meles, from where you get the root like melanin, meles. However, tended to reflect the notion of shrouded in darkness and overcast, like shadow. In English, it has been the color of sin and sorrow at least since 1300s. The sense of, quote, with dark purposes, malignant, emerged in the 1580s in black art, which is necromancy. It is also the sense in black magic, all right? And then you get all these words associated with black. Even when you get down to Black Power in 1966 with Stokely Carmichael. And then all of a sudden there's Black English, and that's English as spoken by whoever African American is. And that's by 1969, the year my body came into this world. English as spoken by African Americans. So once Black Power started associating with it, then they started bringing in the whole Africa thing, right? Shit is crazy. Then you got the noun. Black is also a verb. However, only time you see this shit connected to us as a people is when it's used as a misnomer, right? When they put another word in front of American, right? We are American, period. Don't need no qualifier. There doesn't have to be anything in front of it. We are what we are. The Africans didn't come here until later, much later, hundreds of years later. However, you see the similarities in the culture. But that's dealing with black. So all the Indians, the blacks, well, only in the sense that is used when talking about people in America. It's used as an adjective for Americans. We already saw what Niger, but let's look up the real word that we be using. Let's look up nigger. Now, 1786, earlier, Niger, 1568, Scottish and Northern England dialect. Nigar, nigur, from French negre, from Spanish negro, si negro. From the earliest usage, it was what? the term that carries with it all the obloquy and contempt and rejection which whites have inflicted on blacks. From the earliest usage, these are not my words, this is what we're reading. From the earliest usage, it was, quote, the term that carries with it all the I gotta look that word up, obloquy. I gotta know how that word is pronounced. I can't even go past it. Can't even go past it. Obloquy. Strong public criticism or verbal abuse. He endured years of contempt and obloquy. Yeah. Well, there it is. All the obloquy and contempt and rejection which whites have inflicted on blacks. We ain't even got into the etymology of white yet. We just dealing with some other simple stuff. But as Black African inferiority was at one time a near universal assumption in English-speaking lands, the word in some cases could be used without deliberate insult. You hear that? More sympathetic writers, late 18th century and early 19th century, seem to have used black and, after the American Civil War, colored person. And these is, again, all words being applied to Americans. The Aboriginal Americans and their descendants. So nigger is more English in form than Negro. Yeah, because Negro is more Spanish. But both of them, as foreigners, came to the land to get it. And was formerly and to some extent still is used without intent. But its use is now confined to colloquial or illiterate speech. See, only illiterate people use the word nigger, in which it generally conveys more or less of contempt. All right. And then they use it in a sentence. You're a fool, nigger. And the worst day's work Pa ever did was to buy you, said Scarlett slowly. There, she thought, I've said nigger. And mother wouldn't like that at all. That's from Gone with the Wind. One of them classics. One of them classic Hollywood productions. Gone with the Wind. Right? It was also applied by English colonists to the dark-skinned native peoples in India, Australia, Polynesia. All right? These is what the English, which are the Brits, was calling them Indians over in Hindustan, that they were calling India. But India was what's the word I'm looking for? A brand name, right? Because the name of the company was British East India Company. Right? All right. I'm almost done. So we then went through black. You see nigger. Here's another word, Negra. What is that? What is Negra? Negra is 1944 American English. This is supposed to be our English, reflecting a white Southern U.S. pronunciation of Negro. But it was held to be a compromise made by those whites who had learned to not say nigger, but could not bring themselves to say Negro. And it was thus deemed, in the words of a 1960 slang dictionary, quote, even more derogatory than nigger. All right. You have heard that one. Negra. All right. So, black, nigger, we didn't cross Negro. The Nagas, that would tie back into, again, what they were calling the Indians in India. Right. And to tie it all again in, they also thought that America was the far east of India. You understand what I'm saying? So this term right here was being applied to all of us Aboriginal Americans and, you know what I mean, our relatives and descendants and ancestors and all that shit. Right? But I'm going to end this shit. Stop sharing this screen right here. And start sharing a different screen. All right. I want to try to find this Dave Chappelle video. How they came up with Nick. Here we go. This is for educational use, fair use. I'm getting it from Marcy J's channel.
Would make black people mad for the rest of history.
Check it out.
How did they come up with that? Did they have like a big meeting back in the 1600s? Order! We need to figure out a name to call those black people we found over there in Africa. The floor is now open for suggestions. Bubba, why don't we call them wieners? Wieners. I don't know. Why don't you
use it in a sentence?
All right. Get off my goddamn porch, you! Wiener! No, I'm sorry, I don't like it. Remember, gentlemen, they have those big penises. We don't want to flatter them. We're trying to offend them. Keep it derogatory.
Keep it derogatory.
Ezekiel, get it on. Why don't we call them no gooders? No gooders. No gooders. Let me try. Get off my porch. You no gooder. I'm sorry. Doesn't quite blow off my tongue correctly. No. How many syllables? Ebenezer.
Check the names though, right?
Why don't we call them niggers for short? The whole meeting went crazy. Niggers. Oh, let me try it out in a sentence first. Get off my porch, you nigger!
Oh, shit.
Sounds beautiful. All the possibilities up against the wall. Niggers! Pick that cotton, nigger! This cab don't go to Harlem because we don't trust niggers. Some deep shit, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm gonna close it out on that. But yeah. See all the things that they oh shit. Oh shit. Oh man. Tripping. Well, yeah, end it right there.